We acknowledge and respect traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we are meeting upon here today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationships of Aboriginal peoples to country. We also pay respects to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting or attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia present here. Okay, I think I'm going to whip through this first couple of slides because I think I might have seen some of you before. But I'd like to have this slide up at the beginning anyway, just to remind people, and I haven't done that setting either, so let me do that setting now. But if you do want to use the reactions during this meeting, you should now see that reaction panel so that you can, hopefully that's happened, you can put your hand up or give me a thumbs up if that works now. Okay, perfect. And Cherie's got her hand up. That might be because reactions weren't. Otherwise, feel free, Cherie, to come off mic or type in the chat. Oh, we've got another hand up as well. Did you have questions or were you just testing out the hands up? Testing out the hands up? Okay, let's put them down then. Perfect. Okay, one more tip is if you are trying to share one screen, this webinar is quite a hands-on thing. I'll be getting you to create a class team with a class notebook and have a go at doing different things in the section. So if you are trying to use one screen, pressing the Windows key and either the left or right arrow splits your screen, which means you can see me and work on your teams as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that and I'm going to share my screen and we get started. So this session is about Microsoft Class Notebook, but the best way to set up a class notebook, and I've lost you, so I'm going to bring you back for a moment, is through class teams. Now, the reason why we suggest you do it this way rather than setting up a standalone class notebook is because you might want to later on use the class team for more than just the notebook. And if you set up the notebook and then try and attach it to a class team, it's very difficult, almost impossible. But if you've already set up the class team and then just use the notebook, if later you decide to use the team with your students, then it's already set up for you. Also, when you set up the team and invite your students to that team, straight away they get access to the notebook. You don't have to do things twice. So we will just go out, although others, yep, and we will set one up. So if you're able to follow along, this would be great. So if you've got Teams open, if you can just give me a thumbs up so that I know that, thank you, Fran. Thanks, Chris. Cherie, how are we going? Okay, so sorry, I've just seen that we've got high school. Chris, are you part of Aberfour Park High School as well? And Cherie, perfect. Okay, so if you click on this join or create team, and then if you click on create team, that gives you 4 different options. Now, when we're working with students, the one we want is class. We suggest that any other ones you choose other rather than be tempted by staff and PLC because of the way OneNote is set up in these ones. But today we click on class and give it a name. Now, when you're creating a team, again, it's good practice if you put, for example, your school code in first and then your identifier. The reason why we suggest this is that if you happen to delete the team, it's very hard for the service desk to find a team that's yours that's Year 9, if it's called just Year 9, but if you've got your school code, it's much easier for them to find that team. Okay. Now, when you're creating a class team, it gets you to add students and teachers. So for today, I might just get you to add another person from this meeting so that we can see what it's like to be a student. So Cherie, I'm going to add you to mine. I'll delete it. I haven't deleted the team from Monday, but I will delete it so it will disappear from you, from your view for a moment. Well, in a few days, and click add. I do suggest that you add another teacher. So even if this team is only going to be used for just you, it's good to have 2 teachers. Yes, Fran? If you want to come off mute, or yep. Sorry, you're still on mute. Oh dear, and we still got that echo.
Better?
Yeah,
okay.
Perfect.
I can't seem to create a new Teams from where I've got Microsoft Teams open, but
Okay.
I missed the part where you
I'll go back
showed us how to create a new one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Are you in this window here, or does yours look a bit like that?
Yes, I am in that window, yes.
Yep,
yes.
So Teams there.
Okay.
And then it's that button up the top there, join or create team.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Cherie, did you have a question or are you going okay?
No, sorry, I'm all good. I've got it created.
Perfect. Okay. So if you add
go
another...
Teams, join or create team.
Yep. And then click on the class. Thank you for doing the help. The best way to learn, isn't it?
Oh.
I don't know.
Hang on, I'll go back again.
How do I get back to
So make sure you've got Teams clicked on the side.
All I'm getting is the video.
So down the bottom, if you look where your T is, you'll have 2 windows of Teams open. And you need to click on the tile window of Teams as well. I haven't moved on yet. Can you see that? Or you might have to right click and click on Microsoft Teams to open up a second instance. Looks like Chris might have.
You just have to bear with us for a minute.
That's okay.
She's recording it. We can always.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. All right. Well, I'm up to the bit where it says join a team with a code or create a team.
Yep. So from there, we want you to click on
create.
And maybe if I just get you to mute again. Because I'm hearing feedback. Yep. So click on create team. And then we want to click on the option that is class.
Okay. I'm with you. Yep.
Okay. And then I might get you to mute again, Fran.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so we're in there and
It's yours then.
You have to say it's week 0. There's this is my excuse, all right? So
That's
hang on.
okay.
Let me mute myself.
Jerry, do you have another question, or are you just sitting tight for the moment? Just sitting tight?
No, I'm good. Do I just push the button and the hand comes down again? Does
Yes.
it? Yep. Sorry.
That's it. That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Aberfoyle Park, are you okay now for me to move on? Yep. Perfect. So, if you didn't add students on that first screen, that's fine. You can always add them later. But now we've got these class teams set up, and you see that Microsoft has already created lots of stuff for us. So it's not like a normal, an ordinary or other type team. It's got this pre-built in sections. So we want to look at this one that's called Class Notebook. And it might take a little bit of time. And then we want to click on Set up a OneNote Class Notebook. And we're going to choose from Blank Notebook. Now here I normally just keep everything as is. Unless you're really certain about what you want, I suggest you keep what Microsoft has as the default. You can later go in and change that and delete sections and add sections, but we just keep it as the default and click on Create. And then while that's getting ready, I might jump into OneNote and show you some things while that's getting set up. So I'm going to jump into this one. So this is an example from a primary class, but all class notebooks have the same kind of setup. You have a welcome tab that gets pre-populated by some jargon from Microsoft, but you can see in this instance, I've changed it. You have a collaboration space. So this, unless you change the settings, all students can write in. So in this example here, I had a table and I wanted my class to add to this. It was at the beginning of a unit. And down the side here, you can see that I've got initials. So I can see which students or the initials of the students that completed that. Now, if I hover, you can see it's also got the name of the student there. So if I don't know the student's initials, I can see their name. The next section that gets pre-made is called the content library. And this is where you're going to put work or resources that you want students to be able to access but not touch. So in here, for example, I use this space both to put up pre-existing things, but also like a whiteboard, which means that if I want to go back and revisit what I've done in this lesson, it's there ready to go. But students could also go in here and have a look at what we've done in the past. It's really easy in OneNote to import or do file printouts. So this one is like a worksheet that I've just printed into my OneNote, and then I can have that up on the board and be working out the front with it, but also students can access this later and see what you've done. The next section that is pre-built is the teacher only. Now students, when they open up the class notebook, they don't even see that this section exists. It's only teachers. So if you're an owner of that class team that we just set up, you will see that section. So in here, it's a really good space for teachers to do planning. If you're working with a co-teacher, both of you can see this space and both of you can work and plan in this space. The other thing that I used to do in this space is I used to prepare things that I wanted to put into my content library. And then when it was the right time, I could just then copy that page into the content library. So the teacher only space is great in that you can pre-prepare stuff but not have it on view. Work collaboratively with your colleagues. I used to have all my planning timetables and everything in here, so I could just click in there. And then the last bit is this section here. So you can see here there's names of different people. For this particular example notebook I have, there was just 4 students in here. So these are the names of the students. So each student gets a section. As a student, if this is me as a student, I just see my name. I don't see Cindy or Trudy or Nathan in there. I just see my own folder. As a teacher, I can go in and have a look at everybody's. Have they done their homework? No, they haven't filled it in, etc. But they can only see theirs. They, as a student, can add stuff to this. So this is right. They can write in here, copy pages in here, and this is fully their section to do what they'd like. Knowing that as a teacher, you can go in and check what they're doing as well. Okay, so hopefully now our OneNote has loaded. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you go back into your class team and it looks like this now with a class notebook? No, Chris, you still haven't had any luck. Hopefully you can watch it and follow when you watch it back. Okay, Cherie, is yours showing up now?
I just push a button that says set up OneNote.
Okay. So
set up a OneNote class notebook.
Yep. So press that button and then there'll be a bit of time before it
says blank notebook.
Yep, blank notebook. And then just next. And
oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I lost you a bit at the start, so I'll go back and look at the recording and
yeah. Okay.
I'm on it now.
Okay. So, yes, Fran, you're all right? Oh, you've got a question. You're good. Excellent. So it's a little bit clunky to see your class notebook within Teams. As you can see, Teams takes up quite a lot of the screen real estate. So what I like to do is go up here to where it says open in browser, click on the little arrow down and click open in desktop app. That way it will open up in full screen. Now, at the moment, there's 2 versions of OneNote. So depending on what's installed on your computer, and this one's not responding, that's not good. What's installed, there we go, what's installed on your computer, yours might look a bit different. So it might look like this. You can see Cherie's in there as a student, or it might look like this that I was showing you. So this one here is Windows 10 version of OneNote, which is similar to the web version that we see within Teams. And this one here is the Microsoft 365 version. They are doing an update. Actually, I should just check. No, it's not there yet. Oh, no. Oh, no. So they are doing an update to make this so that you're able to make it look like the other version, but it's not showing up yet, so it hasn't been released in Australia yet. So let me just go back into my other one, and hopefully that notebook will appear now. Okay. Have you got which version of OneNote?
Sorry, Julie's got a question.
This is my.
Yep, perfect. Yep.
Sorry, I'm professional. This is my screen, and I don't know where I'm supposed to go from this because it doesn't look like yours.
And you're using a Mac, are you?
Yeah, we're on Mac.
Yeah. So notes look slightly different as well, but you're in the right place.
Okay, awesome.
Yep,
Thank you.
Okay, so you will see that you've got these tabs down the side already. You've got this lovely blurb from Microsoft, which we delete straight away. And if you added students, you'll see them as names down here. Okay, so let's have a look at how we work with these sections and how we manipulate pages. So first of all, let's get rid of this. So you'll see when I hover over it, it kind of comes up with a box. So if I just click anywhere in the top bit of that box, it will highlight it all and I can just press delete. And it's gone. So here you might want to put maybe a blurb about yourself, or maybe some rules about the class, or something like that. So welcome to our class for 2023. Now you'll see here it's called Welcome to the Class Notebook, and here is Welcome to the Class Notebook. If you want to change the name of the page, you just have to change the text that's above that line here. So I might get rid of the To Our Class Notebook and just call that Welcome. Now, the next thing that's pre-populated is the FAQ. Now, I don't want my students to have that either. So in this case, instead of highlighting what I don't want, I'm going to delete the whole page. So if I want to delete a whole page, I just right click on the page and go delete. So I show you again, I just add an untitled page. I make sure I've clicked on the page I want to delete. I right click and then I press delete page. And that's done. Okay, so if I do want to add pages, just note that this section up here sits outside of these spaces. So in this section, what I normally put is just things that I'm going to be accessing all the time, like my class rules, or if I've got procedures around science labs or something that I want to be able to get to quite quickly, that I want on the board to show students, or I want students to be able to find quickly. Next thing, we've got the collaboration space, and in here you'll see there's this section. So I might not want this again. So let's get rid of that by clicking on the box and pressing delete. And let's highlight that and call it Getting to Know You. Now, one tip is that if you're getting students to work in the collaboration space, sometimes if you just give them free rein about where they're going to type, you find people typing over the top of people and it can get quite messy. So one tip or organisation thing I used to do is insert a table first of all. So I can go up to insert and table, and let's just do it to an 8. And then I normally either give them numbers and then assign students numbers, or copy and paste my class list in there, just so that I don't get Joan typing in the top box and then Bill typing over the top. You'll notice that it's OneNote's a bit more clunky than your Word. Tables you can't format as nicely. If I go in there and it's not as nice, that's just how OneNote is, unfortunately. I also find if I'm creating lots of tables, I normally create it in Word and then copy and paste the table across to OneNote. If you've merged cells in Word, when you bring it over to OneNote, they will unmerge. So again, the formatting isn't that great in OneNote for tables. but that is one way of organising that collaboration space, knowing that in here, at the moment, the default setting is that every student can go in this space and type. Now you can change these settings, and I don't know that we have time to go through that in this session, but you can change the settings to turn that collaboration space off. Sometimes at the beginning of the year, that's advisable so that you can set your class culture before you allow that space to be used by others. You can also change the settings to allow just a small group of people to edit one section. So if you're doing group work, that's a way to organise it. And you can allow everyone to view, but just certain students to edit. So there is lots of settings you can change in this section. Now, it's called using this collaboration space. That isn't a great name. So let's rename this section. So unlike pages where we just type in, to rename a section, we need to right click and go to rename section. So let's call this week 1, and that might be the task that we set up for week 1. Do you want me to repeat that, or are you all right with the renaming? Sherry, you're okay?
Yes, I'm okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, now I've just called that week 1, which leads to me having some more sections in this collaboration space. As a primary teacher, I split this up into subject areas or topics that I was teaching. As a secondary teacher, you might want to split this up into your different assessment tasks, for example, or if you have class groups, you might split it into groups. So down the bottom here, you can see it says add section. We want to just make sure we're somewhere in the collaboration space, and then if we click add section, it adds it there. And then we can give it a name. So for this example, I'm just calling it week 2, and it has pages in here. So let's call this assessment brainstorm. Probably wouldn't be doing this in week 2 with your students, but you never know. If in this section I want to add some more pages, again, it's down the bottom and it's just add page. And then I can add some more pages, KWL, etc. So that's your collaboration space, and that's how we add a section and add some pages. I'm just going to hop out of this and just show you one of the notebooks I was using when I was teaching, just to give you an idea about what you might do with those section colours. So just bear with me for a moment. Oh dear, don't say it's disappeared. Oh, I might not be able to show you this. That's disappointing. Okay, I'll skip that. I'll just show you how to colour code things. So for example, in my notebook, all my sections that were to do with literacy, so that was English, that was spelling, that was creative writing, for example, I coloured one particular colour. My subjects that were taught by specialist teachers, I coloured another colour to help kids recognise which sections. So to colour a section, it's just again right click and then section colour, and then you can choose what colour. Now there's a limited amount, but there's enough that you can work out some colour schemes to help your students navigate. Okay, so let's now go to the content library. And again, we've got this pre-populated field. So we're just going to go on here and click and delete. And we're going to call this, let's call this week 1 as well. Now, in here, we might put in this thing. I don't think I'm following the overview at all, but right. Okay, so in here we might put in a printout of a file, for example, so that we can have it up on the board, or we can have students accessing this for their work. So if I've got a PDF or a Word document or a PowerPoint or something like that, I can just go to Insert and then Print Out. And then if I've got it on my computer, I can then just drop it in there. Now, when it puts it in, depending on how many pages, it might take a while. But when it puts it in, it stores it as a file up the top, as well as giving you images. Depending on the size of your notebook, so how much stuff you put in, you might want to, when it's put in that file, delete that, because that will cut down the size of your notebook and mean it doesn't take as much time to load for the students each time. What good practice looks like is if you've got files like that and you want students to be able to have a copy of the file, is if you go back into your class team and store those files you want students to access in the files in the team, and then link to that in the OneNote so that they can access the file, but stored in class materials, but it's not also copied into that OneNote. Okay, so we put in the file printer. We've got rid of the copy of the file and we're left with images. So each of these pages, or each page in that document or presentation or PDF that you insert, is a separate page. You can move them around. So I might want this one to come up next to it instead. If I didn't want all those pages in, I can delete them as well. So I can manipulate them just like I would a image. If I've got a worksheet, for example, that I want students to be able to write on, now they won't be able to write in the content library, but they could take a copy of this page and put it into their own folder to write on. But I don't want them to be able to move the worksheet around, for example, because if they're annotating over the top and then the worksheet moves, those annotations aren't going to make any sense. So one thing that's quite handy to remember is if you're working with an image that you want people to write notes over the top of, for example, is if you right click on that image and go to set picture as background, that will mean that I can no longer move that picture around. So that's a handy tip if you're inserting a worksheet or something that you want students to be able to write over the top of. Okay. In here, you'll notice in the Insert tab as well, there's some other options that we can add. So if you click on the audio, that records audio. So if I've got students that have difficulty with their reading, for example, I could click on there and record some oral instructions, and then they just have to click and listen. I've also got some stickers, which are just a bit of fun, but it saves you going and finding things yourself. But I've also got the maths tool as well, which allows me to, let's put that in. It does some math solving in the background, but it also gives instructions for the students to work it out. So if I type in an equation, x plus 2 equals y, and then go in and do my maths. Whoops. It will solve it and show me the steps for doing that. So that's quite handy for those students that need that extra support. If it's something as simple as 1 + 2 =, again, it's going to give my students that support. Hopefully. I think I have to put X. There we go. Try again. And then it's just going to show me the steps as well. So add 1 and 2. Anywhere you see this is the symbol for the Immersive Reader. So if a student clicks on that, it will read those instructions out to them as well. So I know this looks a bit language rich, but they can hear it read back to them as well. Okay, so a couple of other options. The online videos is a YouTube link. Links are your standard hyperlinks. And forms, you can embed a form as well. So if you want students to complete a form that you've created in Microsoft Forms, you can embed that directly into your OneNote page. Okay, so teacher only, as I mentioned, is the space for you to do your planning. The kids or students don't see that section. Yes, Fran. Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Julie.
Julie.
On the screen, I have a lot less of those.
Right, yeah.
Across the top, I've got half of what you've got.
So unfortunately, with Macs, you're more limited. You might find, Julie, if instead of using your desktop version, if you use the web version, so let me just bring that up for a moment. If I bring that up, I'll bring it across once I've logged in. You may find that you have a few more of those options if you're viewing it on the web instead. Sorry.
That's what we'll get our kids to do, is to get the web version.
Yeah, so here I'm in office.com. I've gone to OneNote on the web. Up here, if I've opened it recently, it will appear in recently. But if it's my students and they haven't opened it before, you'll see it under that class notebooks. So that if they click on there, they'll see all the class notebooks of class teams that they've been added to. And then they can click on it from there. And again, you won't get as many options, but I think you'll get more options than on the Mac version. So here, if I go to insert on the web, and this should be the same whether you've got a Mac or a Windows machine.
Yeah.
I've got the Maths Assistant, I've got the insert audio, etc. and forms. Okay, yeah, it's a bit tricky. Macs and Microsoft, there's a few issues with Apple not letting Microsoft do certain things, and yeah, so it's a bit of an issue and not one that we can solve. Okay, so what have we got? We've done that. Okay, so because, we might have enough time. I'm going to show you a couple of tools in here. They might not be available in the Mac, but they should be available in the web that can be used by yourself or by students. So one of them is the replay tool. So this isn't a class notebook. This is an example that my team's created, and you can have a look at this example yourself. There's a link to this in the training summary, so you can have a look at this. So the replay button is in view, and what this does is it allows people to see the order in which things appeared on the screen. So if I go to visual arts, for example, I'm teaching kids how to use the grid method for drawing a portrait. I've done this out the front, but I've got Jack who didn't catch all the process. He wants to go back and review what I did, because at the moment, who knows what I did first. I can go to the View tab. I can go to Replay. I'll draw a box around that area, and then it's going to play it back in the order in which I wrote it in that notebook or drew it in that notebook. The student can pause, they can rewind and fast forward. So that's quite powerful, not just for visual arts. Maths, sometimes it's important to know the order in which things were solved. Writing, if you're teaching a foreign language or if you're teaching students how to write, the way you write is quite important. So that replay tool is quite a good one. Immersive Reader as well. So I mentioned before, let me do that. I mentioned before that when you see that symbol there, it's talking about Immersive Reader. Do you know what I mean by Immersive Reader? No? Okay, so if I click on here, what it's going to do is it's going to look at the text that's there and it's going to pull it out. Now, when it does, I've got several options. So I can go in and I can change the color. So some students can't read very well on a white background. So they can choose the color background. And once I've set it up once, it doesn't matter what program they open with Immersive Reader built in, and most Microsoft products have this built in now, it will keep those same settings. They can choose the font. They can increase or decrease the spacing. They can increase the text size. If you're teaching language, for example, you can go in and see the different parts of speech. You can also change this. So if a student gets overwhelmed by the amount of text on a page, you can change the line focus so that they're just seeing one line or two lines at a time. This play button down here, and I don't think I've shared my sound, so I'll just stop and reshare for a moment. Oops, let's go back in. Sorry about that. Now, are you seeing my screen? Can you see my Immersive Reader on there? Let's try again because I think it's playing up.
Now we can.
Yep. So when I hit that play button there.
Speech marks, put speech marks around what the people are saying and add the correct punctuation.
So it will read that text back to students. The other thing in here is handy if you've got students that come from different language backgrounds, is there's some options in here to translate that text. So this was a worksheet. I did a file printout of the worksheet. Microsoft has pulled that text from the worksheet and say I come from France, because I know how to speak French. I can, if I don't know what that word is, if I click there now, it's going to tell me what it is in French.
Ponctuation.
And I can hear it back, and it might give me an image to let me know what that word means as well. If I'm working with parents, for example, I might use something like Immersive Reader to translate the whole document. And then let's just take the line focus off. It's going to translate that whole document into French. And it doesn't do this for all of the language options, but it will do your parts of speech as well in the language. Not all languages have the playback feature. So some of them, for example, if I go in here and choose something that's not that common, and let's do the document. You see how the play button I can't press anymore? That's because that language doesn't have a playback feature, but it's still translated it. So if I'm working with a parent that's literate, they could still probably access that text. So that's built into my OneNote. So that again, in View, Immersive Reader, that's a powerful tool to let students know about if you are working with students from non-English speaking backgrounds, or just students that struggle to read, so that they can hear that text played back. Okay, I think that is all for that. So the last bit is going back into my class team and showing you how what we've just done, or what we've created. So I'm working with 3 screens and it pops up on the wrong screen. How that might work with assignments. Now I'm happy to take you through that, but the other option I have for this last bit is to go in and show you those settings for that content library. Would you like me to do the assignment bit, or would you like me to go further into settings? If you can give me 2 thumbs if you want assignments.
Yep.
Assignments. Yep, perfect. Okay, so I'm moving out of my OneNote completely and I'm back in my class team, but I've already set up my class OneNote, and in fact I'll pop back into that for a moment. I'll just go back into the right version and find that one. In fact, what I want is students to fill out this getting to know you grid, for example. So I've set up the page, it's all ready to go. Now I'm in my class team and I'm going to go to assignments. Now, assignments allows you to add all sorts of things, but I'm just going to focus on what we can do with OneNote. I'm going to click create because I want to create an assignment. From here, you've got several options. If you choose quiz, this creates a form, a Microsoft form. If you choose from existing, you can choose a previous assignment that you might have created, but we're just going to click assignment because we're going to start a brand new one. Okay, now with assignments, you always have to put in a title. So OneNote Page. You don't have to add instructions, but I think it's best practice if you do. So please fill in the table with facts about you. And then this is a bit where we marry this assignment to our OneNote. So when I click on attach, I've got class notebook that comes up as an option. And I can click on there and straight away it's going to show me the class notebook which is associated with this team. If I click on my collaboration space, I'll see those 2 sections that I created, the week 1 and the week 2. And when I click on week 1, I see that getting to know you page. Now, normally if it's an assignment, I probably wouldn't put it in the collaboration space. I'd put it in the content library, but I don't think we'd set up many pages in the content library. So you have to select a page, not a section. But once I've got a page, I just click attach. And then it's going to ask you where you want to put the student's own copy. So it's going to recreate a copy of that page in each of the students' OneNote section. So in this case, I guess this is homework. So I'll click in the homework section and click done. Okay, I can give it points if I'd like. I can add a rubric. I can choose who this is going to be assigned to. So if I'm working with split level classes, for example, I might want to assign one page to one group of students, my year 4s, and another page to my year 5s. Excuse me. So I could do that there. If I'm working with multiple classes which are doing the same subject, for example, I've also got the option here to assign to other classes as well. Doesn't like me at the moment, but you can assign to multiple classes. Okay, so I'm just going to click assign, and then it will do all that in the background. Now, when I click into that OneNote assignment, I should see my student. So there's Cherie, and I can see she hasn't handed it in yet. I don't know why. But if I click on her, what it does is it actually brings up that OneNote page, which is created in her section of this class OneNote. So I don't have to go through and find where the page is in each section. If I've set it up as an assignment, I can just go through assignments, click there, and there's that page. If I've got more than one student in there, I just click on the next, and it will bring me to the next student, the same page that I've just put in there for the next student. As a student, if I go into assignments as well, and this is different because I'm a teacher, but as a student, if I clicked on there, it would come up in my assignments, and I'd see that the task and click on there, and then I'd go straight to the page where I need to do my work as well. Let's just go back to my team, back in my assignments, and there it is. So I've set it up as a OneNote page. As a teacher, I've got the possibility to add feedback directly to that page. So I could highlight something I could add text, highlight that text. I could, if I've got a touch screen with a stylus, I could add a note in there. I can go in and record some feedback if your students respond better to audio feedback. So I can go in and click audio and record some feedback. So I've got the possibility to do all the things that I can through OneNote. I'm just doing it in assignments instead. Also, this is a new thing. I can record some video feedback for my students. So again, if your students respond better, I can see you're pulling a face round. But if your students respond better to...
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, good.
That's better than doing a screencast.
Yeah, so you can record, you can press that and record yourself giving you feedback. It won't work because I'm using my camera on this Teams meeting, but you can do that or attach something. So if you've got a standard feedback or a help sheet or some guidance to add there. Just in the assignments as well, the default is that once you've had a look at it, you click return. If you click on the arrow down, you get a return for a revision. That's a really powerful option, so that it looks like that, but if you click on the arrow down, you've got return for revision. That gives it back to the student and gives them another chance to have a look at the feedback that you've given, and then submit it again. So I've just done that to Cherie, who didn't even submit it, but that's okay. Sorry, I think
I'm still trying to find it
Okay. Let me
because
just
I got to the class notebook February 25 and I've got
Yep.
home page, class notebook assignments, and I've clicked on assignments.
So let's have
As a
let me
student,
just find it here. So your folder, I put it in the homeworks. Oh, maybe it hasn't synced yet. So that's the other thing. Sometimes OneNotes take a bit of time to sync. You see up here, you might be able to see a couple of arrows, like a circle. That means that that notebook was still syncing. So now that's disappeared. There's the getting to know you page in Sherry's part of the notebook.
Yeah.
So it might show up now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really good thing for me to just show you before we go. When you click on that and you see all your notebooks, sometimes they might not be synced. If you want to force sync it, if you right click, you can go sync and sync this notebook or sync all notebooks. Now, Julie, I think it might be slightly different on a Mac, and I can't remember the process. So yeah, hopefully it's similar now, but I do remember a while back it was a bit different. But yeah, that sync can sometimes trip people up because get back in the right one, because they can't find the page, they recreate it when all it was it hadn't synced between your different teams and devices. Excellent. And you can see there, because that's Cherie that's typed it in, her initials have come up on the side there. If that gets too messy for the screen, and I know it's only Cherie that can write in here and myself, I can, in the View tab, click on Hide Authors, and then that disappears as well. So your students might want to hide the authors, and you might want to hide the authors unless you want to check in that collaboration space. Okay, so that really brings us to the end of this session. I think hopefully I covered most things in there. I didn't talk about reading progress, but that's kind of more to do with assignments rather than class notebook. But in that handout, there are some links at the end, and I'll just bring those ones up briefly. So if you've been to one of my sessions before, you will have already seen these links, but I will share them again. So our team has a YouTube channel where we put lots of, or where we record lots of clips on how to do different things. And there is a channel on class teams and class notebook. Now, I recorded these a fair while ago, so there are some new things, not so much in class notebook. Class notebook has stayed more or less the same, but class teams, there are some new features that aren't mentioned in the class teams. So if I click on the class notebook playlist, class notebook section, you'll see there's a section overview, there's things on the replay tool, creating links. So there's a whole lot of mostly short ones that you can go and have a look at to see step by step these processes. So I just pop, will it, I don't think it will. Let's see if it would. Yep, I will just pop this link into the chat in case that's something that you'd like to reference. And on our YouTube channel, we've got lots of different things, not just on OneNote and Class Notebook. The other place I like to draw people's attention to is the Microsoft Learn site. So this, if you're going to use this, we suggest you create a profile for yourself using your @schools email. Let me just bring it back to the Educator Centre, and I'll pop that in the chat as well. So Microsoft Learn is a huge website that is there for everybody, not just educators. But if in the trainer, you go to the Educator Centre and Professional Development, browse all. Then there's a whole lot of different resources that you can find things that are specifically for educators. So if I put in class notebook, hopefully something turns up. You can see there's a module there that's an hour 35 minutes that takes you through class notebook. There's a OneNote Teacher Academy. So these are specifically designed for educators and teachers. Not all the things that you'll see here we can do it in our tenancy in our environment, but they're pretty solid modules that you can go through, and once you complete them you'll get a badge and you can record that for your PD as well. So I think that's about it from me. I'm happy to stay on for a few questions if you've got questions. I will send you out a link to this recording probably next week, I think, because I do have to go through and blur out your video, your faces, for example, and emails and that kind of thing. So it does take me a little while to get them ready. But as soon as I do, I'll send you out a link.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.